Good afternoon, sir. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Posnett, good afternoon. Can we look, please, at a document we looked at this morning, just for one additional point? Poll 00167138, please. And if we can look at the bottom of page 1 and the top of page 2, please. You remember this email from you to that collection of people we see on the right?
Yes.
And we were asking how it was that you got the article from the grocer in Michelle Graves' email below.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes.
If we scroll down, please. And again, please. We can see that on the face of it, she's not sending you the article from the grocer. Your email address isn't one of the three listed there, is it?
Correct, yes.
But can you see that the first of the three email addresses is the Pole Horizon Integrity Group?
Yes.
The second one is Mandy Talbot and the third is Martin Humphreys.
Yes.
What was the Pole Horizon Integrity Group?
I don't know, other than perhaps a team that was gathered to look at horizon issues.
If we scroll up, please, and again, it looks like you reply to Michelle Graves and then expand what was the Pole Horizon Integrity Group email address by responding to individuals. You're aware you can do that?
Am I aware I can do that?
Yes. If you have a group email address which has got 5 people in it,
Yes.
you can simply reply to that email address and all 5 people get it.
Right.
You can click on it. It will expand the group. There will be 5 emails from
Right.
that group.
Yes.
You could either add to it, you could subtract from it, or you could just reply to all 5 of them.
Okay.
Does it look like you've replied to the people in the Pole Horizon Integrity Group?
If this was a general horizon group, I wouldn't have thought John Longman was part of that. He was more case-related, specific case-related. And Jane Owen, I wouldn't imagine, was part of that group.
John Longman gets the email twice, doesn't he?
He does, yes. Yeah.
Going back down then to this Pole Horizon Integrity Group, does it follow that by at least February 2010, the Post Office had set up an email group or a group of email addressees with the collective name Pole Horizon Integrity Group?
It looks like that, yes.
Do you remember being a part of the Pole Horizon Integrity Group?
I don't remember that. The only one I do remember is the weekly Horizon Integrity meetings.
Which is much later.
I believe so, yes.
Can you help us as to why you may have been a member of the Pole Horizon Integrity Group?
As previously mentioned, I was utilised quite often to get involved in this or that, or help people with this or that, because of my longevity in the security team, and also possibly because of my role as casework manager.
Can you recall what work the Pole Horizon Integrity Group did?
Other than what these documents show, for example, I was asked to do 2 case studies. I don't remember.
Do you know how long it lasted for?
I don't know.
Do you know whether there were any terms of reference for it?
Not that I recall.
Is that noise putting you off?
It's fine.
It's putting me off. So I don't know whether you can hear, but in the background, it sounds like the noise of a leaf blower or a chainsaw.
No, I'm immune from that. I'm pleased to say.
I wonder whether we could just take a pause
Yes, of course.
whilst that's investigated.
Yeah, I'll stay in my position. I won't go anywhere. Okay, Mr. Beer.
Yes, if we turn your camera off, sir, and we'll just all stay in our own positions and sit down.
Yeah, fine.
So can you see and hear us?
Yes, thank you.
So we haven't found out what the noise was, but it stopped. So I'm going to take a punt and try and carry on.
Fine.
Is the short point then, Mr. Posnett, that you can't remember being a part of the Post Office Limited Horizon Integrity Group in February 2010?
Correct. Not in this context.
When, years later, from 2013 onwards, you became a member of the Horizon Integrity weekly group meetings,
Yes.
do you think did you think to yourself, hold on, I've done this before?
I don't remember
I've
thinking...
been part of an integrity group 3 years previously.
I don't remember thinking that. I do remember thinking, here we go again, another thing I've been roped into. And it seemed to be me from security and pretty much senior managers or heads of from other departments.
Let's look at that then, the integrity meetings that you do remember. You address this in paragraph 147 of your statement, and it's page 43, please. Page 43, at the bottom, paragraph 147. You say, third line, in my last couple of years working within the security team, I participated in these meetings.
Yes.
I refer to them as Horizon Integrity meetings. These were weekly conference calls attended by different people representing different teams within the post office. Any issues or claims or information which had come to the attention of teams across the business relating primarily to Horizon were raised at these meetings. These issues were collated and any actions identified. I recall notifying security managers that if Horizon was mentioned during the course of the investigation, then details should be flagged to me to be raised at these Horizon Integrity meetings.
Yes.
Can we look, please, at poll 0012 6735? I think this is part of your appraisal. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
And you say, I instigated a meeting with Cartwright King solicitors as they had been contracted to deal with prosecutions concerning Post Office Limited cases. Yes?
Yes.
I also invited the head of criminal law, as he had been appointed following the split from Royal Mail Group. Is that who you're referring to there?
Bijano Singh?
However, on discussing the proposed content of the meeting, he did not think that most of it was relevant. Just help us there. Why did Jarnail Singh think that meetings about Horizon Integrity were not relevant?
I don't think this was about Horizon Integrity. This was Cartwright King were appointed the solicitors for the post office following the split from Royal Mail Group. I was asked to instigate a meeting with Cartwright King, and it was purely an introductory meeting, meet and greet, and we did a presentation to them, and I can remember would you like me to continue?
Yeah, so I'm afraid the noise has started once again. I think we'll have to have a break in the inquiry until it goes away permanently. I'd probably ask you to turn off and occupy yourself otherwise, and we will contact you by email when the inquiry room is in a fit state to hear evidence.
All right, that's fine.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, Mr. Posnett. So can you see and hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So we've been told that it's some gardening work being carried out on the third floor of the London School of Economics, an outdoor garden. It involves some cutting and trimming. They need to do it whilst it's still daylight. They're going to return and do it in about 15 minutes from now, and that will last 2 or 3 minutes. So in about 15 minutes' time, it's going to start up again for 2 to 3 minutes. I'd suggest we all just sit tight,
Yeah.
see that through, and then carry on.
All the years that I visited London, and in particular this part of London, I had no idea that such a garden existed, Mr. Beard.
No. Can we look, please, at poll 00126735? You were telling us, I think, that this first box is not referring to the Horizon Integrity meetings. It's about something else.
Yes.
And nonetheless, however, you were proposing to Jarnail Singh that he attended, and he said he didn't think that most of the content of the meeting was relevant.
Yes.
Cartwright King was the post office's customer. We simply had to tell them what the post office wanted and how it should be delivered.
Yes.
And you challenged that view because it involved relationship building with a new service provider.
Yes.
What was the meeting between Cartwright King and the head of criminal law to be about?
It was a meeting between Cartwright King and the Post Office Security Stroke Investigations. They were a brand new service provider, and as I said, it was literally a meet and greet meeting, introductions made, presentations given, described the team set up and so on and so forth. Mr. Singh was invited because he was the head of criminal law, but I recall that his stance was, we need to tell them that we want this, that and the other, we want it quickly because it costs money, etc., etc. Now, he had a point to some of what he said, but my view was that wasn't the purpose for this meeting. It was a meet and greet meeting.
And I think you said that you transferred your challenge to a senior security manager, and he ensured that the head of criminal law didn't attend the meeting.
That's correct. I spoke to Dave Pardo, who was the Strand leader, and I think he arranged it that Mr. Singh wasn't going to attend.
And why? I mean, that's what Mr. Singh wanted. He didn't want to attend.
No, I think Mr. Pardo informed Mr. Singh that he wasn't going to attend, but I wasn't privy to that conversation, so I'm not quite sure.
And so what was the difficulty here then? Why Mr. Singh didn't want to attend, and Mr. Pardo said, I'm going to ensure that he doesn't?
I don't think he worded it like that, but Mr. Pardo agreed with me that the point of this meeting was to introduce ourselves to a new firm of solicitors who we were going to work with in the future. He didn't think the gung-ho approach of laying down the law in terms of costs and speed of work, etc., was appropriate for that particular meeting.
I see. Can we move on, please, to poll 00128293?
May I just say, I don't think Mr. Singh was aware of that. That particular behaviour was you had to demonstrate when you challenge.
Yes.
So that was an example of mine where I challenged somebody.
So that was like a competence or behaviour related
Yes.
metric,
Yes.
where you had to evidence certain behaviours.
Indeed, yeah.
And the behaviour there was challenging.
Yes.
Okay. This is, I think, your performance review for the 2013 to 2014 period. It's dated somewhere else in the document, the 23rd of May 2014. And if we go to page 4, please. About halfway through that box, you say, I have also subsequently formed part of the Horizon and Integrity Working Group, bringing potential Horizon issues to ongoing weekly conference calls.
Yes.
And I've demonstrated leadership qualities in other areas. Yes?
Yes.
can you recall who attended the weekly Horizon Integrity meetings?
There was myself from security. I again, from documents I've seen, I think Rob King from security attended. Andy Hayward, I think, would generally attend in my absence. You had people from Retail Network, such as Gail Peacock or Gail Laverick, Anne Alaka. We had somebody from the Network Business Support Centre, Martin Smith from Cartwright King, Jarnail Singh as the poll lawyer, somebody from Product and Branch Accounting, Andy Wynne, I believe. I think the press office were invited. I'm not sure they were always in attendance.
What was the trigger for the setting up? That document can come down, thank you. What was the trigger for the setting up of the Horizon Integrity meetings?
I can't remember, but having seen the documents, I believe there was an email from Susan Crichton, the General Counsel at the time, basically informing stakeholders that she wanted a weekly conference call relating to Horizon to capture all issues that are raised or known about. So it was in a sort of central place each week.
What was the purpose of the Horizon Integrity meeting?
I think, one, to collate all the information in one place.
Information about what?
Horizon. So any issues, glitches, problems, or anything cited in interviews. In my view, it was anything Horizon related. So collated into one place, and actions where applicable to try and address those things that were raised. And if I could just expand that, my reflections on this inquiry were that I think you had sort of Mandy Talbot doing this there, Sue Lowther doing this there, myself doing this there, Helen Rose doing a report here, Rod Ismay doing that there. This was a good idea to me because it brought everything into one place rather than people working in silos.
And so to get away from siloed working, to bring all knowledge of Horizon Integrity issues together in one place.
That was my understanding. And
presumably consider whether any of it needed to be disclosed in current criminal proceedings.
Yes, but on that particular point, Cartwright King and Jarnail Singh were in attendance, and I think it was Bond Dickinson who subsequently ran the meeting, so there were legal people involved.
And presumably to consider whether any of it needed to be disclosed in relation to past criminal proceedings.
Yes.
Can we look, please, at poll 00139730? This is a meeting on the 19th of July 2013, and we can see that you're present.
Yes.
Alongside some of the people that you mentioned.
Yes.
Yes. And if we scroll down, please. Rob King outlined the purpose of the meeting to identify any issues around the integrity of Horizon from a technical perspective and take any necessary action. Would that accurately summarise to you the purpose of the meeting?
Yeah, I think that repeats what I said a little while ago.
A process needs to be set up within each directorate where each representative proactively seeks out any technically with Horizon. Do you know what that's meant to say?
Technicality?
Did that happen? That each directorate set up a process in which a representative of that directorate sought out information concerning technical problems, I'll call them, with Horizon?
I can't speak for all the people at that meeting, but I would imagine so. The only thing I can tell you is what I did, which was communicate to all security investigation managers. And I can remember on my email saying anything relating to Horizon that comes across, comes to your attention or is referred to in an interview, must be flagged up to me to bring to this particular meeting each week.
Just going back up to the cast list. From security, is it right that only you and Rob King were represented?
Yes.
And was Rob King senior to you?
He was, at that stage, the senior security manager for the team that I was in, yes. So Dave Pardo was, and Rob King subsequently became him.
So if we scroll back down, please. It says no minutes circulated, but we will be taking notes. Were you the note taker?
I was the note taker.
Sorry, did you say you were?
I did take notes. I don't know whether is this the first meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I can tell you my recollection, which doesn't necessarily correspond to a document or a blog that I've seen. So I can only tell you what my recollection was. I thought it was the first meeting, and I typed up the minutes and actions and sent them out. I had my own.
Sorry, you typed up the minutes and actions?
Yeah, which may be this, but I'm not quite so sure. But I typed up the minutes and actions, sent them out. And then I can remember John Scott coming to me, and I think he was inquiring how it went, which suggested to me that it was the first meeting. And I see I'm just dealing with the minutes and the recommendations. And I can remember him saying to me, no, we don't want any minutes being circulated. And I don't know if I got my wires crossed, but I was not to keep my handwritten notes. Simple as that. He went away. I was concerned for two reasons, and I relayed those reasons to Jarnail Singh, the lawyer. I told Jarnail what had happened, and I said to him, I've got two concerns. Number one, I'm very uncomfortable with being told to not keep notes, and I don't know whether the word shredded was used, but I think that was the implication. I was not comfortable with that, and I was not comfortable with not sending out minutes, because if there's no minutes or actions being sent out and there were no notes to have, then what was the point of the meetings? It would just be a chat every week and then we all go our merry way. So two concerns. One was shredding and disclosure, etc., but the other one was the practicalities of the meeting.
Can we break all of that down then? That document can come down for the moment. So you attended the first meeting.
Yes.
And before the meeting, was there any discussion between you and any other person over whether a record of the meeting was to be kept?
Not that I can recall.
Did you, in fact, take a handwritten note of the meeting?
Yes.
In what, an investigator's notebook or something like that?
No, it's a big yellow A4 pad that I used to use.
And why did you take the note of the meeting?
The email from Susan Crichton explained what this meeting was going to be. Could you all provide names of attendees to Dave Posnett from security? So, yet again, it was myself. I don't know whether I was told or I took it to mean that I'm running this meeting, as it were.
And so just going back to the minutes that we have got, poll 00139730.
Yeah, can I just raise a query?
Yes.
I mean, if this is the first meeting,
Yes.
given what I've just said to you, I don't understand. It's got here no minutes circulated. Well, I'm not sure I would have put there's no minutes to be circulated, and then I've sent a...
That's what I was going to ask you about.
Yeah, that's why I'm...
It says we will be taking notes. Do you think that's a reference, given it's attributed to Rob King, to the security department taking notes?
Yes, but if I prepared these, I wouldn't be right. I don't think I would have been writing no minutes will be circulated, here's the minutes. So this is where I'm a bit confused.
There were only two of you from the security department.
At that particular meeting, yes.
And Mr. King of the security department is recorded as saying, no minutes will be circulated, but we will be taking notes.
That's what he said.
Does that reflect the fact that you were taking notes from the security department, hence the we?
Possibly, but I can't remember.
So anyway, you took a handwritten note.
Yes.
And you told us that, thank you, that can come down. You told us that subsequently you were in the process of writing up a note of the meeting, and by that do you mean typing up?
Yes, I think I'd actually sent the minutes,
I see.
and then I was told, don't send the minutes. I mean, again, I can remember, oh God, what have I done? I've sent something that I'm now being told shouldn't have been sent. So.
And so Mr. John Scott approached you, did he?
Sorry?
Mr. Scott approached you, did he?
Yes.
And you told us that he said two things. One was about distribution of minutes, correct?
Yes.
And one was about making or keeping a handwritten note.
Yes.
What did he say about making or keeping a handwritten note?
Again, I can't remember the exact words because it was so long ago. A document I've seen says that the word shredded was conveyed to me. So I may well have conveyed the word shredded to Mr. Singh.
Yes.
It may have been other words, but in my head, it was pretty much, if it ain't written down, it didn't happen. That's the sort of gist I was getting.
So no matter the precise words used, the essence of what Mr. Scott was saying to you was that there shouldn't be a record of the meeting retained.
That's what I understood it to be, yes.
Did he explain why?
I don't recall, other than that as I've said, it was a case of if it is written down, it didn't happen.
You said that you were uncomfortable with this, and
Yes.
you went to see, or you spoke to John L. Singh,
Yes.
and you told him you were uncomfortable.
Yes.
Did you tell him that the implication of what you had been told by the head of security was that you should shred or destroy your existing handwritten notes?
Yes.
And what did Mr. Singh advise you?
He said, keep the notes, don't destroy them, don't get rid of them or whatever, which I did. And then I think at some stage, within a week or two, well, within a week, I think, the next thing I knew is that I wasn't leading the meeting or taking notes. Bond Dickinson were now going to, and I can remember at that time thinking, well, that's fine by me. It's now something that I don't need to worry about because somebody else is running it.
Was it explained why Bond Dickinson were taking over the note-taking?
It may have been, but I can't remember the reason. I was just pleased that it wasn't me.
Was privilege mentioned? Legal professional privilege?
Not that I recall.
Do you know what legal professional privilege is?
Legal is the same as legal privilege, that it's a confidential between client and...
Yes.
Yeah, I know that, but I don't recall that being mentioned.
Was that mentioned at all as a reason for them taking over the note-taking? That it might be protected by legal privilege?
I don't recall.
What did you do with the notes that you had made?
I kept them for weeks, months, years. I moved into a different role in the post office, and then ultimately I left the post office. I don't know what happened to them, to be honest, but...
They were likely disposed of at that time.
I think they were... I remember when I left the post, I was trying to find them even then. But whatever it was on the notes, I'd incorporated into the minutes that I'd sent. So again, going back to this blog that I remember, I think it was Simon Clark or somebody had said nothing was destroyed because it was... Well, nothing was destroyed and it was included in the minutes.
Can we go back to this note, please? Poll 00139730. And if we just scroll through the document, please. And again, please. And again. And again. And then to the end. And then right to the end. Thank you. Does that look like the type note that you distributed?
It could be.
Go back to the first page, please.
I think when Bond Dickinson took over, the minutes had their logo at the top.
Yes, in the top right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think this is the typed minute that you distributed?
Possibly. I think it was the first meeting, but again in that blog I think it says 3 meetings in, so I'm not quite sure. But there was certainly a meeting where I sent the minutes.
What was Mr. Ismay's role in these meetings?
He was from Product and Branch Accounting. I don't recall him being at many of the meetings because I think it was mainly Andy Wynne from the same team. But obviously Product and Branch Accounting either received information about Horizon or were a point of contact to look at certain things in relation to Horizon.
If we can scroll through, please. Next page, please. Thank you. Your entry there, or your record of you speaking, you're recorded as saying reporting of issues by current or former sub-postmasters would be through publicised channels, Focus Online, issue 164, and intranet for current sub-postmasters, branch support team at an email address for former sub-postmasters, contract team at an email address. What does that mean? What's being recorded there?
So I think these are the points where sub-postmasters or ex-sub-postmasters or whatever would feed in issues, and I think they were the channels where we would capture the information. But now I don't know what a Focus Online is.
So this is recording you saying that if sub-postmasters want to report an issue, if they're a current sub-postmaster, they should use this email address. If they're a former sub-postmaster, they should use this email address.
I can't remember, right? But I don't think I would have said they should. I think these were channels that were already there, although I may be wrong.
If we scroll to Mr. Ismay's entry at the foot of the page there, he says, brought this topic to the operating board regarding consequences and impact on the financial services centre, security, etc. One area of concern was briefing, guidance, training on hazardous goods. The line brought this topic to the operating board. What did you understand the operating board to be?
I don't remember. I mean, it sounds like a senior group of managers type board.
Did you know what link there was between this Horizon group meeting and the board or a board of the post office?
No.
i.e., whether its work was to be reported back to the board, and if so, how?
I don't recall that, no.
Moving on a paragraph, Mr. Ismay is reported to have said internet chat rooms, noted that chat rooms and forums have sprung up. Origin of one was Yahoo Mail. Local groups and others have instigated chat rooms re-giving advice, perhaps in good faith. Question, what can we do about this? Currently no evidence of forums being used to give malicious advice to defend accusations of impropriety. Can you recall what that was about? What the concern was?
I don't recall, but that would suggest to me that it's probably not the right word, obviously, but I'll use the word noise again, that perhaps there was more discussions about Horizon in these particular chat rooms or forums that have sprung up.
Can we move to page 3, please? And look at your entry, which is just at the foot of the page that we can see there. Thank you. You're recorded as saying that you confirmed that security did not have a master list of all of the issues. Unclear if anyone can respond to potential query. Appears there's currently no central point of contact for queries. So this is mid-2013. Was it still the case that there was no central point of contact within security for Horizon-related questions?
Again, I don't recall, but judging by that, yes. I wouldn't know how that would have been confirmed.
And was it still the case by mid-2013 that the security department of the Post Office still did not have a list of all issues concerning Horizon?
I don't recall.
What about the Horizon Integrity Group that had been operating in 2009? We saw from that email earlier.
Yeah.
Had that not been a group that had been set up to deal with the challenges to Horizon?
It looks as though it was, but whether I don't know whether it was just a case study or two. I don't know whether it was all Horizon issues.
What about the team that you mentioned as having been convened or set up in 2009 to deal with Horizon challenges? Do you remember that email from before lunch?
I remember the email, but I don't remember the forming of the group or the work that was done.
I mean, put another way, this wasn't new in 2013, was it?
No.
There were a collection of challenges to Horizon.
Yes, and I think it was 2013 where Cartwright King were doing their sift of cases, assessing cases.
Were you aware of Mandy Talbot in 2005 recommending to a range of senior post office figures that a coordinated approach to any Horizon challenges should be maintained, that expert input sought and an independent review be conducted of Horizon?
I don't recall that. If I wasn't aware of that at the time, then that's another example where I mentioned that people seem to work in silos.
She was recommending an anti-silo measure
Right.
in 2005. We've explored this in the evidence with her already.
Right.
That there be a coordinated approach that seeks to draw together all of the challenges that there were to Horizon, even in 2005.
In 2005, I was an investigation team manager, so in all likelihood, I'm not sure I would have been made aware of that.
What mechanism was put in place for the disclosure of information discussed that went to Horizon integrity issues at these meetings?
I don't know.
Was there a mechanism?
I don't know. If there was, I would imagine it was Cartwright King or John Ailsing or Bond Dickinson, which were the three sort of groups of legal people.
Was there any discussion at the meetings that you attended of whether these very documents needed to be disclosed on unused material schedules?
Not that I recall, but I would imagine if those discussions were held, they would be on some of the minutes for some of the meetings.
Thank you. Can we move on to a different topic, please? Can we look, please, at poll 00118096? Can you see an email at the top of the page from Mr. Wise to Mr. Stanway, and then if we scroll down, please. At the foot of the page, an email from you to lots of people in May 2011.
Yes.
Just looking generally at that group of people as at that date, May 2011, who are those people?
They are Dave Pardo, the head of the...
Sorry, without going through them individually.
Oh, sorry, they're investigation-related people.
Yeah, so they're investigation managers or managers of investigators.
Yes.
And the function that you were performing in May 2011 was?
Accredited financial investigator.
Why were you sending an email out about casework compliance?
I think it was because we had a North team and a South team, and the whole of the South team left. So we were getting a whole new South team from outside the business.
A team of what? Accredited financial investigators?
No, security stroke investigation managers.
But what had that got to do with you? You were an AFI at this time.
Yeah, it's another example of, can we get involved in this? But the idea was the new people who came in, the compliance would be for them to ensure consistency in the work they did.
You write, most of you are aware that case files submitted for legal advice will become subject to compliance checks. This process is due to commence in June and is designed to raise standards of files submitted, including their contents, reports, tape summaries, appendix enclosures, recoveries, stakeholders, and ensure there's a consistent approach across the team. It's probably an opportune time, given we've recently recruited new people to the team. I've associated relevant documents that feed into compliance. Please familiarise yourself with these documents. Myself and Paul will be attending each security operations team, is that?
Yes.
Meeting North, Central and South, and the dates are given, happy to discuss. We can see from the top of the page, if we scroll up, that that included a zip file, your email,
Yes.
as an attachment, the zip.
Yes.
And we know what's in the zip file. Can you start by telling us what the purpose of you sending out this suite of case compliance documents was?
Yeah, so if we were reintroducing compliance, I was sending out the compliance documents that were in force some years previously, so that all the investigation managers knew what was going to be assessed in terms of the compliance.
Can we look at poll 00118104, please? One of the attachments to the email within the zip file was this document.
Yes.
Okay. Do you recognise this document?
I don't recognise the document.
You sent an instruction out to a large number of members of the security team, telling them to familiarise themselves with, amongst other things, this document.
Yes.
Presumably at the time, in 2013, you were familiar with this document. You wouldn't be asking 20-odd members of the security department to familiarise themselves with it if you yourself weren't familiar with it.
Well, I don't remember this document. I don't remember sending it out, and I don't remember any responses.
I've asked a slightly different question, which is, given that you did send it out,
Yeah.
and given that you did instruct people to familiarise themselves with it, presumably you would have been familiar with it.
I would, when I was an investigator, which goes back to 2010, and thought I would have been familiar with the identification codes. If I was attaching a document to send to them, I wouldn't necessarily have opened it up because the identification codes are the identification codes.
Why? You said in your email that you'd be happy to discuss the contents with them.
And if they want to discuss the contents, I would have discussed them.
So what you would have sent out blind, some attachments to an email saying, familiarise yourselves with these, your compliance with them is going to be checked. I'm happy to discuss the contents with you without looking what was in the contents. Or just ignoring the content for the moment and don't let that colour your answers. Do you really think that's so?
I've racked my brains over this document. I think I either didn't read it or I skim read it and didn't take on board what was in it, or I thought this was the up-to-date version of that form, but on reflection, it's not an official form, so that would be why there wasn't a more up-to-date version of it. I hope it's not the third of that scenario.
Sorry, I missed a second of those possibilities.
Either didn't read it, or I read it quickly just to make sure it was codes, or I thought this was the latest version. But it's not an official post office form because it hasn't got a number at the bottom. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I can't remember the form. I may have used this form, but it was so long ago.
Looking at it now, what do you think the purpose of the form was?
I think I put in my statement that it was used to complete an MPA1 form.
And cutting through it, what do you think the MPA1 form was for?
I think that was to notify the police in the event that somebody pleaded guilty or was convicted to update their records.
So apologies if we just pause there. I think the 2 to 3 minutes of noise has just started.
All right. Well, I'll remain in my chair, but I'll take myself off screen.
Well, in fact, so what we could probably do is if we broke until 3:10, we could probably take our afternoon break early.
All right, that's fine. 3:10.
Thank you, sir. So good afternoon. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Posnett, I'd shown you an email of May 2011 with you distributing to a wide range of people within the security department
Yes.
the identity codes document, amongst others, yes? And you said that you don't remember sending the email and you don't remember looking at the contents
That's
of the document.
Yes.
But you think that you were either distributing the contents without looking at any of them, or insofar as you looked at them, you assumed that this ID codes document was an updated version of something that went previously. Have I got that right?
One of the possibilities I thought was it's the most up-to-date version, or there hasn't been another one, so that's what it is. But I also don't remember any of the other forms other than the score sheet one that I've seen.
The Excel spreadsheet,
Yes.
which contains a score out of 100
Yes.
with a series of columns and rows
Yes.
marking you on things ranging from the font that you use to an adequate summary of the interview that you conducted.
That's correct, and I think that was an old compliance set of documents. I think I don't know whether someone's emailed to me or they've been on an old Team Drive or SharePoint site or they were on my computer. But I think I've lifted them from wherever and sent them out to the people on the email.
So would you just put this down to being sort of a single email that you distributed, that you sent out, containing a document that you didn't pay much attention to, and that's why you didn't pick up what might be described as grossly offensive racial profiling within it?
That's one possibility.
We're in possession of I'm not going to take you to them in the interest of time. I'll list them for the transcript. But we're in possession of a series of emails of you redistributing that document
Yes.
time and again. On the 29th of March 2012, poll 0011 5665. On the 27th of April 2012, poll 0012 1810. On the 1st of May 2012, poll 0012 1816. On the 31st of May 2012, poll 0012 1843. On the 16th of June 2012, poll 0012 0956. And on the 21st of September 2012, poll 0012 1913. So by my count, you distributed it 7 times in 2011 and 2012.
I thought I'd sent it 3 times, but...
Okay, well, let's not go into that for the moment. No doubt if any of my references or dates are wrong, that can be picked up in due course. Is it really the case that on every occasion you were sending out to different members of the security team a document telling them that they needed to comply with its contents, that you didn't know what you were sending out because you didn't look at it?
Yes, because, well, if the first time I sent the email I didn't look at it, I would have thought the second and third time, if it is 3, I wouldn't have looked at it because I would have thought, well, I'm just sending out the same email that I sent before.
Wouldn't you want to have checked what you were sending out was appropriate for all of these people to have to comply with its terms?
I would say yes, but again, my day job was accredited financial investigator. I don't know the details, but I would imagine myself and Paul were asked to reintroduce compliance checks. So again, it wasn't my day job. I think I would have just picked up the documents and sent them out.
Looking at the document now, what do you understand its purpose to be?
For use when completing the MPA 1. That's the only reason I can think as to why we had identification codes. And I think identification codes existed on the offender report templates from when I first started in investigations.
So the MPA1, we can go through a lot of documents to work out that, in fact, I think it was the MPA3 that was the report, but it doesn't matter. A form that was used to report matters to the police service, is that right?
Yes.
Is essentially what you're
I think so, yes.
referring to. And what was the purpose of reporting some information to the police?
Well, the post office conducted, in effect, private prosecutions.
Yes.
So we had to notify the police so that they could put it on their national system, any convictions.
Was it at the point of conviction you understood that the notification was to occur?
I believe so, yes.
And when you say on their national system, do you mean the police national computer?
I think so, yes.
And so to summarise what your belief was, it was necessary to set out on a form that was sent to the police at the point of conviction, is that right?
Yes.
The identity code of a convicted person to include on the police national computer.
I believe so. And if it wasn't that MPA form, then I don't know why we had to.
We'll go through those forms in a moment. Does it follow that the codes that needed to be used, if they were to be notified to the police service, needed to be the police service's codes?
That would make sense, but
Do you believe then that these were the police service's codes in 2011 and 2012?
I don't know.
Before we look at that series of MPA forms, can we look at poll 00126594? There's a no on that. I'll try an alternative reference if you just give me a moment. Poll 00126735. And if we go to page 3, please. At the top, do you remember we looked at this earlier? It's your appraisal document, I think, for 2012. You say in box 13 at the top, due to the agreement that a colleague would conduct all compliance checks on case file submissions, I met with him and handed over all appropriate documentation and explained the process and recording and monitoring mechanisms associated with the compliance process. I also checked the first few compliances undertaken to ensure consistency and understanding and thus enable a smooth transition of the process to this colleague. Is the colleague there Andrew Wise?
I don't know.
We see in other emails that your case compliance check email, including the ID codes document, is subsequently, after the end of September 2012, distributed by Andrew Wise and not by you.
Yes.
Do you think this handover you're talking to here was with him?
I don't know, but it could be because I think Andrew was the temporary team leader.
Right.
Which would make sense because he would do the compliance checks on the investigators.
But here you're talking about a meeting with that person, handing over all appropriate documentation to them and explaining the process. Presumably you looked at the suite of documents, I think there are only 8 of them, in the case compliance material.
Yeah.
On this occasion.
Again, I don't remember it, but if I'd have emailed it to him, as we've seen, I don't see why I would have had a meeting with him and handed over all the documentation.
You're claiming as part of your appraisal that you did?
Yes, if he's the colleague.
Sorry?
If he's the colleague.
Yes. Well, whoever the colleague is, we'll call him Mr. X. You met with Mr. X and handed over all the documentation for case compliance, explained the process to them, explained the recording and monitoring mechanisms associated with them, and then checked the first few compliances undertaken. You must have looked at the ID codes document then.
Well, all I can say is that I don't remember.
But looking at these words that you were claiming credit for in your personal appraisal,
Yes.
you agree that you must have done.
Well, it says I've handed over appropriate documents. I can't say.
Well, no, not that you've just handed over the documents. You've explained the process to him, Mr. X. You've explained the recording and monitoring mechanisms associated with compliance.
Yeah.
And you checked the first few compliances undertaken.
Yeah.
You must have looked at the ID codes document then, mustn't you?
Not necessarily. I've handed over the documentation, explained the process and recorded monitoring mechanisms, and also checked the first few compliance undertaken. So it doesn't necessarily mean I've rechecked that form. I may have done, but I can't remember.
You've got 8 documents in front of you. You're sitting with a colleague who's going to take over this job
Yeah.
from you. You're handing over the documentation to them. You're explaining the process to them.
I don't know if I'm sat with them. It might have been online or on the telephone. I don't know.
Or it might have been a Teams meeting.
We didn't have Teams meetings then.
Okay. So when it says I met with him, does that mean I didn't meet with him? I spoke with him on the phone.
I don't know what it means. It's 10 years ago.
Put aside the content, Mr. Posnett. I realise why you might find the content of the ID codes difficult.
Yeah.
And just focus on what you said in your personal appraisal here.
Yeah. I genuinely cannot remember it. I don't remember who the colleague was, how the meeting went. If I do, I would say so.
Looking at these words, do you think it's likely that you went through the documentation with him, Mr. X? Put aside whether it was Andrew Wise or not.
I don't know.
And you think you might have sent it out 7 times, the ID codes document, if my calculations are correct, without looking at the contents?
It's possible, but I don't know.
Can we look, please, at poll treble 03 8495? If we just look at the foot of the page, the policy title's reporting of criminal offences to the police, and if we go to the top, please. It's part of an investigation policy, and it seems that it's Appendix 15 to it. And if we look at paragraph 3.1, the policy on reporting of criminal offences to the police says the development of the Phoenix National Criminal Justice Records Service has enabled the Association of Chief Police Officers, ACPO, disclosure group, to design national standardised forms for the reporting of offences and the results of prosecutions and cautions to police authorities. These standard forms, which are designed for use by all non-police prosecuting agencies, MPAs, have been provided to all security managers. Form MPA 1, source input document for Phoenix, 2, continuation sheet for additional offences, and notification of result at case for PSO use only. Do you know what PSO was?
Prosecution Support Office, maybe?
And so the MPA 1 form is a source input document for Phoenix. Do you remember what Phoenix was?
No.
Do you remember an intelligence system that was different from the Police National Computer?
No.
But MPA 3 is the notification of the result form, yes?
Yes.
If we go down to 3.2, during the course of an interview, a suspect interview, investigators should complete the offender details on side 1 of form MPA 1. Can you see that?
Yes.
And all of side 2, which deals with identification details of the case. So that the investigator was required to fill out the MPA 1 form at the point of interview. Is that right?
That's what it says, yes.
And so although you recalled that the form to which the ID codes document related was about reporting convictions, that doesn't seem right according to this, does it? Convictions, the MPA 3 form, MPA 1 form is at the point of interview.
Agreed, yeah.
Can we look, please, at poll 0012, treble 16? Do you remember this, a case progression map?
I don't recall that, no.
Can we go to the last page of the document? And under acquiring AS numbers, do you remember what an AS number was?
Was that something to do with the summons?
It may be an arrest summons or a summons for arrest.
Right.
Anyway, acquiring the AS number, the instruction is to update the front of the NPAA form, NPA 1 form, with the date of the court hearing and details of the court, complete the offence and method used in the offence section, and email the updated NPA 1 to the casework team. Do you agree that it seems that an NPA 1 form was required for a magistrate's court to issue a summons?
It looks that way, yes.
And who would be responsible for generating these MPA 1 forms, the criminal law team or the investigator?
I thought it was the investigator.
Can we look, please, at poll 306 2566? Can we see that this is an NPA 1 form? If we just scroll up a little bit, in the top right-hand side, top right-hand corner. Thank you. Yes? So this is an example of an NPA 1 form?
Yes.
Yes? Does this ring any bells?
It rings the bell.
Can we look at page 2, please? Can you see that at the top of the page, no, they've been redacted. At the top of the page, there is a box entitled Ethnic Appearance.
Yes.
There were, I can tell you, underneath that box, 7 boxes. One which said white European, the second which said dark European, the third is Afro-Caribbean, the fourth is Asian, the fifth is Oriental, the sixth is Arab, and the seventh is unknown. Yes?
Okay.
Was the intention that an investigator completed those the ethnic appearance part of this form by reference to the ID codes document that we looked at?
I thought that's what would be used to complete this form. However, if you scroll to the top of this MPA 1.
Yes, please, Frankie.
It's got their form MPA 1/97. So if this form goes back to 1997, even then what you've read out doesn't correlate to the form that I sent out.
Do you know why that is?
Why?
Why the post office was circulating why you were circulating a form that didn't correlate to the, at least the 1997 edition of the MPA
I don't know.
1 form? Would investigators have to refer back to the ID codes document in order to complete this document? Or the bit of it that concerns ethnic appearance?
Not necessarily.
Why so?
Well, I think when I became an investigator, I had to go as a second officer on jobs with experienced people, and they'd send me their reports. So you'd see the codes on the reports, and I think over time you get used to the codes and know what they were without having to refer to a form.
So what was the purpose of the circulation of the ID codes document then?
Because on the compliance, when you did a suspect offender report, one of the sections on the template was the identification code. So that was a point of reference if they needed to find out the code. Or they could ask someone or Google it or whatever.
When you say or Google it, what would they Google?
Identification code?
And what would they find if they Googled identification code?
I don't know because I haven't Googled it.
Would they find the post office identity codes document?
I doubt it very much.
They would find some other organisation's identity codes, Police Scotland or
Possibly, yes.
the ACPO identity codes document or
Yes.
the National Crime Agency, or if they put those online.
Yes.
That wouldn't be very helpful, would it? If they were filling out a post office form,
Well,
i.e. the jacket to the, or the front page, the frontispiece of the offender report, looking up somebody else's ID codes to fill it in wouldn't be that helpful, would it?
No, but I'm not aware as to all those different companies you've mentioned had different codings. I don't know.
Do you think they were the same as the ID codes document we've looked at?
I don't know.
Are you suggesting that we can really put this ID codes document to one side because investigators would just go online and Google ID codes in filling out forms?
If they Google it, I would imagine it would be police ID codes.
Yes. And why would they want to use police ID codes in filling in the part of the offender report that asks them to identify somebody's ethnic appearance?
Because I think, this, as I said, this form is police linked. It goes to the police.
That can come down, thank you. Were statistics kept on the identities of the racial and ethnic identities of people investigated by the post office?
Not that I recall.
Was there any central repository where that information was stored and any analysis undertaken of it?
Not that I recall.
So why was the post office maintaining its own list of ID codes which didn't match that of the police?
I don't know.
You were distributing it and telling people that their compliance with it would be marked. Why were you doing that?
Because that was part of the compliance forms that I would have picked up from whatever year it was.
So those are the only questions that I ask, Mr. Posnett. I think there are some questions from the Howe & Co team.
Can I
Right.
just, sorry, can I just say one thing
Yes.
on that? That form is the form that's given me most grief in relation to this inquiry. And it's not even Horizon related. I don't remember the form. I think it's a very old form, but clearly I've sent it out. And on reflection, I shouldn't have, and I can only apologise. I certainly didn't mean to cause any offence.
Thank you. So there were some questions from Howe & Co.
Yeah.
Mr. Posnett, my name is Sam Steen. I'm just going to ask you a few questions on behalf of the Howe & Co clients who Howe & Co represent a very large number of sub-postmasters and mistresses. I'm going to take you directly, please, to a document that has, we've asked the inquiry to put up on the screen and will be available, and it is POL 000 98520. And Frankie, if we can go to the second to last page, please. So, of that document. Yes, we have it. And Frankie, just scroll down a little bit underneath the. We now have a spot review SR022. So, Mr. Posnett, let's orientate ourselves around this document, just to familiarise yourself with it, because no doubt it's been a little bit of time since you've seen this. 9th of June 2013, okay?
Yeah.
So this is in the same period of time where you've been asked questions by Mr. Beer, who's asked you questions today so far, and you are dealing with the integrity group at that stage, okay?
Yes.
So this is from Simon Baker, dated 9th of June, and it's to Andrew Parsons, Andrew Wynne, Craig Tuthill, and then yourself, and after that, Gareth Jenkins and others. And you'll see there it says, we now have a spot review, SR022. And going on to say, please can you come to the dial-in on Wednesday, having reviewed and your comments on how to approach this one. Going on to say, Peter, it would be good if you could join us so we can get the request into Fujitsu for the XML data, so it's ready for them when he gets back. All right? Now, can you just try and help us a little bit with what was going on at this stage? When it says we now have a spot review, then a number is given. The number appears to relate to a document we'll see in a minute. But then it goes on to say, please can you come to the dial-in on Wednesday having reviewed and your comments on how to approach this one. What was that about? What's this spot review about?
Okay. I was asked on the Raw 9 questions whether I had any involvement with Second Sight. And I think my response was I don't recall being involved in Second Sight. And then I've received further documentation that spoke about these spot reviews, which were in relation to Second Sight. So I completely forgot about those and I don't remember. I think my recollection now of these spot reviews were there were a selected number of post offices that this group of people were going to review. And I think what I did in relation to the cases was obtain the suspect offender report and perhaps the interview summary, so I could speak from a security perspective at these meetings. I may have cascaded those documents to the people on the call, but I can't remember.
Okay, if we scroll up, please, Frankie, to the top of this document, we'll see then the way that this was dealt with. And you'll see, Mr. Posnett, that you're at the top.
Yes.
So this is 12th of June 2013, and you'll see then the reference under subject to the documents, SR021 and 022, then they're referred to as attachments. And helping us a little bit in relation to this, from your perspective, who was Simon Baker, Andrew Wynne? Who was Simon Baker?
Simon Baker I can't remember, other than he was a senior manager. Andy Wynne worked, I believe, in product and branch accounting,
Yeah.
and I think his boss was Rod Ismay.
And then going down, we see that your title, accredited financial investigator at security team.
Yes.
Your boss being Mr. Scott, is that right?
Not my direct boss, but he was the head of the security, yes.
Head of,
Yes.
head, from your perspective, your most senior boss.
Yes.
Right. And just staying for a moment with this, if we go down a little bit further, we'll see that the reference is further down that page, please, Frankie, from Dave Posnett, sent 10th of June to Simon Baker. You're then referring to, it seems, the documents, and these were issues with scratch cards and problems that related to the use of scratch cards within particular branches. So that seems to be what the documents were about.
Yes.
Okay. If you go to the second, the second main paragraph that starts, I ran a number of intervention education initiatives, and then go to the end of that paragraph, which finishes with, there were many audit shortages and scratch card holding concerns seem to highlight other problems at branches. Do you see that?
Sorry, which paragraph?
Yes, certainly. So the second page, please, Frankie, of the document. Go a bit further down. Go back up. Right, thank you, Frankie. All right, so if you read down from what you have in front of you, so we've got 3 paragraphs there, and you'll see the third paragraph also in the file. It is my, then in brackets, then monthly holdings overview spreadsheet, yes?
Yes.
Right. The end of that paragraph, it says, there were many audit shortages and scratch card holding concerns seem to highlight other problems at branches.
Yes.
Now, this therefore goes back, it seems, to around 2010 period of time. So that's when you'll see that this document and your investigation into this area, the problems with scratch cards, seems to take place. So starting first of all in 2010, when you came across issues such as this, people having problems with the use of scratch cards, that causing, it seems to highlight other problems at branches. What was the system at that stage, 2010? Was there a central place to go look to see whether other people were having these sorts of problems? Was there a central place to report this into so that you could see the volume of problems across the system? So 2010, to start off with.
I don't recall there was a central place to record those sort of problems.
From your perspective at this particular time in 2010, can you help us understand why there wasn't something? Why there wasn't a library or some way that you could establish what was going on across the system? Did that not exist?
I don't believe so. I mean, in relation to scratch cards, they were an anomaly because I think they were the only stock item that had to be activated on a lottery terminal before they became value stock, and they had to be remmed in. Every other item of stock, from recollection, was just remmed in and it was already there as value stock. So it was different, and I think some sub-postmasters struggled to understand that. So, for example, if a branch received £10,000 worth of scratch cards, the idea would be that you activate 1 pack, £200 to sell, or 2 packs, £400 to sell, but a sub-postmaster might activate the lot. So it's all of a sudden have £10,000 worth of valued scratch cards. And if they got stolen, they're worth a lot of money. Whereas if they weren't activated, they're worthless.
The question I'm asking you, I understand, we can see, in fact, from this document why it is that there's an issue in relation to scratch cards, but when you are finding problems in the course of your work, my question is, was there a way of establishing a bank of these issues? There must have been some system, is what we're trying to find out, Mr. Posnett.
I don't know, but the sentence there said there were many audit shortages and scratch card holding concerns seem to highlight other problems at branches. If there was such a database, it sounds to me like it would be the audit team who may have it. But I don't know is my answer.
And in relation to such issues as this, when you're doing the investigation, did you routinely contact the different area branch managers and similar and say, well, actually, this is something we've encountered? Was there a way of spreading information amongst the branches, in that sense, within the management of the branches?
Not from my perspective, because the fraud risk programme that I was running, in this case related to scratch cards, the other problems noted came out of audits. So the audit team would be aware of these other issues.
Right. So to the extent that you're able to help us with that at the moment, there's an issue here of being siloed into different parts of the system.
Yes.
Okay. And then in 2013, when this is being looked at, you think as part of Second Sight and their investigations?
The spot reviews.
Yeah, spot reviews.
From what I've seen and read, yes.
And had things changed by that point? Had there been a system then established to establish a bank of problems, issues that were uncovered?
I don't know, but obviously we've seen that there was this Horizon Integrity Group here and that one there and that one there. So I don't know.
And lastly, as regards Mr. Scott, you referred to him earlier in your evidence as being the individual who suggested that notes shouldn't be kept. You, in fact, discussed this with Mr. Singh, saying that, using the word shred, in relation to getting rid of documentation. Did you take this up with Mr. Scott? Did he say, Mr. Scott, look, I'm sorry, but I think this is not really something that I can possibly do? Did you challenge him on this?
I didn't. Number one, I didn't find him very engaging. Number two, he didn't like to be challenged. And number three, I think there was a sort of culture of fear. Hence, I opted to tell Mr. Singh.
When you say a culture of fear, are you talking about, on the one hand, being directly threatened, or are you talking about another type of fear?
Not directly threatened, but you didn't want to get on the wrong side of him.
What would he do to you?
Well, my last year in security was a nightmare. I thought I was being bullied and harassed. I think I know where that was coming from, but I could never prove it. And I think I was a number of people over the years who left security or were, in effect, forced to leave security.
Not exactly a way to manage security concerns so that people feel that they can raise concerns or difficulties or challenge authority or indeed ensure that there's an honest and competent response by the Post Office. Do you agree?
Agreed. I agree. But that's my take on it.
1 minute, please. Thank you, Mr. Posnett.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Posnett, for giving evidence to me over 2 days. Admittedly, yesterday was a bit shorter, but it was still a fairly hefty session. So thank you very much for answering so many questions. And thank you also for a detailed witness statement, which provoked so many questions.
Thank you, sir.
So we'll adjourn now and start again at 10 o'clock, yes?
Yes, that's right, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.